The battle for the mind of North America will be fought in the video arena. The television screen is the retina of the mind's eye. Therefore, the television screen is part of the physical structure of the brain.
All right, here we are. Welcome back to the Outer Reels. This is episode 17. This is our first episode where we fly over to Japan and start to explore something I know nothing about, which is Japanese movies. And here's always to help me butcher pronunciation of people's names, Jason.
I am here to make us enemies.
I originally found this when I was doing some research on, believe it or not, on Starship Invasions.
Wow.
There's a bit of cross-pollination here on this movie because of
Robert Vaughn.
Well, Robert Vaughn for sure, and then some locations and stuff like that and where it was shot, and it kept popping up in all these searches. So some people might actually argue maybe this is a Canadian movie. It's, Japanese director, Japanese writer, but there's a lot of stuff shot in Canada. I'm sure some funding came from there.
Well, I don't know. IMDb says it's a Japanese movie.
Yeah.
Looking at its locations, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
They spent a fortune on this.
This movie has a great production value.
Yes, it did. I mean, God, they went to Machu Picchu for
I know.
12 seconds on screen?
Yeah, and that's not just a green screen gag that somebody would do now. They were there.
No, and I was looking at different scenes, and I thought there's supposed to be an Antarctica at one point, and I was like, did they actually go there? Because that looks spectacular. And sure enough, Antarctica and Alaska both listed.
And they shot some stuff in BC as well.
Yeah. No, they're all over the place. So.
We're already getting way ahead of ourselves, but
totally.
So this movie is called Virus, by the way.
From 1980.
From 1980.
And we watched it on Tubi, and I want to give a nice hearty F you to Tubi. If you're going to put foreign movies on your English language platform, Tubi, give us some damn subtitles.
I miss the old Tubi logo. But no, I agree. So this is what happened with me. So I put the movie on and it started and there's Japanese text, Japanese title cards. I just wrote it out. And then there's a lot of people speaking Japanese and I wrote that out. But I think you did the harder work and did some translations.
Well, I pulled up my phone because I have a Pixel. And Google Translate's built right in, and all I had to do was point at the screen and click translate, and I got all sorts of stuff.
Remember last episode when I called you a nerd?
You're the one with the avid tattoo, dude.
Okay, you win that round.
So I should say that I found out that this movie is called Resurrection Day in Japan.
Oh, nice.
Or at least on that title. That's what Google translated it as. I don't think that's quite right because when I did some other translations, it got slight variations of that.
And none of those, strangely enough, are listed in my alternate release titles. So
there you go.
Yeah,
which we'll get to in about 3 hours.
Yeah. This is a long movie. So this comes in at a 156 TRT. So this is a solid 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
The best way to get into it and actually describe what this is about, or I should say, I'm just going to say this was a good movie and I enjoyed it. And
I did too. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's going to be some spoilers in here. I wouldn't highly recommend this movie, but I'm like, if you're looking for like an old Japanese movie that you haven't seen, I would definitely recommend checking this out.
I don't even know if I'd really call this Japanese. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
This is like sort of those big budget, late 60s, early 70s multinational movies used to.
It's like a disaster movie.
Exactly. Or like, I was thinking like Midway,
okay.
Where it's like a huge, massive cast. Like Midway's got a huge Japanese cast along with a big American cast because they tell the story from both sides.
Yeah.
And this kind of does that too, except it's multinational. And now I also need to point out that it took me way too long to figure out who Chilean guy was, Edward James Olmos.
Oh.
I was like, it wasn't until almost where he was singing that I realized it was him.
Captain Lopez.
Lopez, yeah.
Yeah.
It took me way too long to realize that.
This movie is absolutely riddled with great actors. It's all over the place. There's just people peppered in here. I mean, yeah.
And it's riddled with some amazing overacting in places as well.
That's true. We got a long way to go here, so not a short time to get there, unlike the best movie ever made, Smokey and the Bandit. Down to brass tacks. You step in a studio elevator, standing next to James Bridges. You want to pitch this movie. 1979, he's just coming off of China Syndrome. he's about to make Urban Cowboy. So he's a hot ticket item in the studio right now. How do you sell him Virus in 1979?
Yeah, but this is a funny one because I don't think this would actually be a hard sell in 1979 at all.
No.
Like I heard this movie bombed, but it's like the pitch is, dude, world-ending virus decimates mankind, and this is about the people who survive and try to stop it.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. Multinational. We're gonna go to Italy. We're gonna go to the Soviet Union. We're gonna go to Antarctica. We're gonna have Brits, although British captain will be played by an American who doesn't seem to want to do a British accent most of the time. And we're gonna go all over the place. I got this great idea for a scene in Machu Picchu.
Let's go. Yeah.
Let's do it.
I think that's the right way to pitch this movie, is that it's grand in scale and visual.
It's huge.
And the way that I would spin it, and I would pretend, because I don't believe it existed at the time, but I would pretend that somebody's already seen DEFCON 4. And I would say, this is a much larger scale version of DEFCON 4 with high stakes that are actually high. Because the idea is that, the people, a giant virus breaks out, and then the people that survive it are the ones either in submarines or at outposts and, closed off environments in any which way where people can't easily get and interact. So you have this viral issue, and then you have a lot of tension when, the parties decide or get in touch with each other, whether they should meet, whether they should congregate. You're running on scraps for the human civilization. There's not many people left, but also you don't want to risk another small pool of people getting infected. And so there's some great tension that's built there. And then they throw in a really interesting thing in the third act that really hooked me, actually, which was the earthquake and everything with the nuclear stuff. There's some really good components to this movie, and that really levels it up. I think we could make this a great 90-minute movie. It doesn't need to be this long. There's some love subplots there that I just really didn't care about. And I know this is 1980, and the romantic interest stuff you could do without, but it's still well done.
Yeah, and that's all very much a product of its time.
Yeah, exactly. And it is paced like a movie from 1980, which I have no problem with watching slower movies at all.
I don't either. I am so surprised I'd never heard of this before.
Yeah.
Because this would have been right down my alley in the early 80s. Like if this was available on VHS, and I've seen like the DVD cover, and if the VHS cover looked like the DVD cover, it explains entirely why I would never have rented this. But I totally would. If I stumbled across this on TV, I would have been entranced.
Yeah.
Now, but I also heard that there was a butchered version of this around for a long time.
I'm glad you asked, Jason. I mentioned that. This was very early on in this movie's life. It ended up in public domain in the USA, like very early after its release. I don't know why or how.
Oh, really?
And what ended up happening was the one copy of it at the time that existed was one made for home video, and it was a 108-minute cut. And that just got copied and distributed. And
that was probably the VHS version, I'm guessing.
Yeah, the home video. Yeah, and so that was the release version. So I'd like to see that cut, because that was probably a pretty tight movie. But I understand people who are fans of it would be happy to see the full version in its entirety. But for whatever reason, it hit public domain and it got butchered up. And a lot of people saw this version, the 108 version, not the one that we just watched.
Yeah, I have zero desire to see the 108 version. But I may have gone onto eBay and ordered a DVD that has the full 156 of it.
This is a great movie to own. I'm in the same boat.
Well, I want to watch it again. I want some subtitles, because that's Tubi's biggest crime in all of this is there's no subtitles. Like I said, I could use Google Translate to translate the Japanese text. There was basically like Japanese subtitles on screen for no dialogue.
Yeah.
And I got all that.
Well, that's great, because just to remind the listeners, I watched it I just raw dogged the Tubi version and pretended I tried to figure out what they were saying and guessed. So I'm probably going to learn a lot, and I'm sure anything that I think is a flaw in this movie will probably be fleshed out through the titles.
Well, anything in a foreign language, I have no idea.
Yeah, of course. We get Japanese text and title cards throughout the movies as installments and sort of updates.
Yeah,
and
I can elaborate on that for you.
Yeah, so to get going on this anyways, directed by Kinji Fukasaku and I'm trying, believe me, I'm trying with these names, but they're not going to. He's done a real lot of stuff. I haven't seen any of it, but I'm sure people are fans. But he went up in 2000. He directed and produced Battle Royale in the second one. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah. So this guy,
Battle Royale's a great
movie. Yeah. He has a huge worthy back catalog. And I'm sure there's some other great gems peppered amongst his stuff. So
apparently I'm going to go pull my Blu-ray of Battle Royale out and watch it again this weekend. So
there you go. Speaking of great movies, so this movie has Bo Svensson, George Kennedy, and Robert Vaughn all in one movie. You know the only other time they ever all appeared on screen together?
I'm guessing it's got to be like Earthquake or something like that, right?
The Delta Force.
Delta Force.
I know.
Nice. But let's just skip over though. I mean, Sonny Chiba is in this. Olivia Hussey is in this. There's some amazing names, and we said Robert Vaughn already.
Yeah, Glenn Ford plays the president.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, you would definitely know that because 2 years before this movie, he played Superman's dad.
Yes, he did. He's also a very good director. Of course, Chuck Connors is our British naval sub commander. Who you could not get more American than Chuck Connors.
Yeah.
And for those who aren't sure who he is, imagine the Conan O'Brien's father in like 1960, and that gives you Chuck
That's
Connors.
That's a great picture to paint, dude. That's perfect. That's a great descriptor.
I was just like, my first note was, oh, how is an American the captain of a British submarine? And then like later on in the movie, he's speaking with an English accent, and then the accent's gone again at the end. So
I took it at the very first, because the very first scene happens on a submarine. And there's all these nations on there. I was like, is this just a bunch of people left over operating a submarine because they're from all over, which isn't the case. But his voice confused me as well because I didn't understand
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I thought was going on at first, because there was a couple of Americans on there, and of course our Japanese leads on there as well. And they're all on the sub because it's December of '83. And then like they have, like I said, I don't know if you want me to, I'll just run with it. It's December of '83. They're surfacing in Tokyo Bay, but they launched this drone and it starts taking video of Tokyo, and just everyone. It's just nothing but skeletons and dead bodies and everything. You know, and this is the part where you probably don't know. Then they roll the credits, and then when that's the long song that's in like English and French.
Sounds like it's straight out of Man from Hong Kong.
Yes, or a James Bond movie, which is what I was thinking. And then the movie jumps back to February '82.
Yeah, so I didn't catch.
Yeah, so you probably didn't catch that, but that's what happens. So
the last couple of things I want to jump in on before we really get into this is that this movie was cut by Peter Hubbard to Virus in 1980. Was his third credit as picture editor. However, you could probably just disavow every single thing this man has touched. Just jump to 1985, and we should talk about how he was the sound editor on Commando. Cue the James Horner steel drums, but. Yes. So, and then after Commando, could you have a better career path than to go straight into 86 and be the sound editor on Big Trouble in Little China? Nice. so he would have for sure known Merkovich, who we both know.
Oh, yeah.
He would have worked with him, so that's kind of cool. So then let's stop in 1990, and then he was the dialogue editor on Predator 2. So now he's associated with one of the best one-liners in history. If you remember when Harrigan's standing there and he's like, okay, pussyface, it's your move.
I'm trying to remember it. I think Predator 2 is
extremely underrated film.
Personally, the Dark Horse comic version, which is what it was loosely based off, that takes place in New York, and like one of the hottest on record. And there's a scene where the cop is like looking through his visor and he sees the Predator up on top of a building. It's a very cool scene in the comic.
We'll see. If you look at the original movie poster, it actually looks like future Manhattan. It's still artwork. It's just right at the end of the production getting up and running. They had a budget cut and they ended up shooting in L.A., but for all intents and purposes, it was supposed to be New York, and so I'm sure the comic.
Yeah, the original comic took place in modern day New York, and it was just Dark Horse was doing some great stuff. Their Aliens comic series were fantastic, and then they did this Predator one. It was just great.
I gotta check that out.
And then they started doing Aliens versus Predator, and then Predator versus Batman, and they went a little overboard.
So this editor's still going on just a little bit more. And in 1991, he's all up and down Harley Davidson, the Marlboro Man, also an amazing movie. And then this one's for you, 92. He did the Buffy movie.
Nice. I like that movie a lot.
And to cap off his career in 1994, he was a sound editor on my favorite Pauly Shore film of all time, In the Army Now.
Nice.
Pretty good.
Wrong, because it's Biodome, but still. Biodome and Encino Man, those two are neck and neck for me.
Pretty good. Also, when we're on the submarine, we get a little taste. The opening shot, there's a doctor and he's experimenting with a drug.
French doctor, because we're international.
French doctor. Yeah, this is Dr. Latour. He's played by Cecil Linder, and you would know him as Felix Leader in Goldfinger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the doctor is trying to convince British submarine captain Chuck Connors to allow him to keep the air sample that they take. So they eject the drone. They see that Tokyo is dead. There's no signs of life there at all. And then they take an air sample, and the virus is there. And the doctor wants to keep a sample of it, and Chuck wants to ditch it. Why would they risk bringing this virus on board the sub? Because it puts him in danger. And the doctor gives him a very great counter argument and says, "Are we in danger of the nuclear engine in the submarine?" He's like, "No, we're shielded." He's like, "Let me do my job, and I let you trust my knowledge, and I'll trust yours," kind of thing.
That was actually a good sort of establishing scene because, I still didn't know what this collective of people on the submarine was. I was like, is this all that's left of humanity, or is there a larger thing at stake? But at first you just don't know. You just know there's a submarine full of people and it's survived this long.
Yeah. Well, and you won't know, because this scene actually takes place about an hour and a half into the movie. Like, it's another hour and a half in the movie before we catch up to this time again.
Right. Yeah. We just get a taste of it and then we go back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like a cold open almost. It's like a tease. Yeah. And then cue the Bond Man from Hong Kong style opening song that is both in English and French. And then we jump to February 82, and it's East Germany.
But the footage here is incredible, by the way, of the submarine moving. Like these big, wide, scale of this movie is absolutely incredible. It's just beautiful.
Oh, no, the cinematography in this is fantastic. There's some sweeping, amazing shots of. Story-wise, we're jumping back. It's February 82, and we're in East Germany, and it's a bio-research station. This is where, I don't know if you want to tell the story or want me to.
No, because all I have here is that we're in the Oval Office. And
you skipped some time.
Okay, yeah, so.
All right, so right after the credits, it's February of 82. We jump back in time now because before we were in December of 83. So now we're back almost 2 years. It's East Germany, and it's a bio-research laboratory. Two guys, I guess, are driving in. They give ID, and they're speaking East German, which, of course, we have no subtitles for.
Right. It's like a blizzard, too, right?
Yeah. And then we get to like a cabin. Inside is this scientist, and they're like, they just say to him, "Do you have it?" And he says, and he takes it and he opens it up, and he shows them this little vial, the MM88 virus. We don't really know what that is other than it's something that the Americans have developed.
Plutoxin 7 virus wasn't developed till 1997, by the way. That's from Escape from LA.
Right. Anyway, he takes it out and shows them. And then after he takes it out of the canister and shows them, he says, "Under no circumstances take it out of the canister." I was just like, well, what are you doing then? Yeah. So these guys get it right then. Like, East German police or military attack. They start shooting at him and everything. And the scientist gets killed. And he was all very important. He wanted to get it to a specific other scientist or doctor for some reason, because this thing's like super contagious kind of thing, and it could wipe out apparently all life on Earth.
Which it does.
Or anything with a vertebrae, I guess, like all mammals.
Yeah.
These guys like take this thing and run, and it's a couple of Americans actually. Scientists killed in the attack, and these guys are fleeing in a plane. They're up in the mountains. I don't know where they are at this point, but I guess still Germany or whatever. The Americans making the pilot fly low.
Yeah, I should say that the pilot here is played by Dick Grant. He was in Strange Brew.
Oh, nice. I love Strange
Great
Brew.
movie.
Yeah, so anyway, he's making them fly low, and they're like, but, we need to go higher to get out of the storm, and it's like, it's too hard. And then he makes some comment about how he can't fly. We got to lose some ballast, which makes no sense if they're staying low anyway, but they throw the other extra guy on the plane out for whatever reason. And then they keep
there's a lot at stake here, so.
Yeah. And then they manage to crash. And it breaks open. And now the virus is loose in the mountains. Oh, yeah.
And that's when we go to the Oval Office, right?
March 82 is the next title they give us, like a month later. Everything kind of jumps by a month. For a while.
You got a lot more out of this movie than I did.
I kept track. So it got pretty easy because I was able to tell when there'd be some writing and then it would say 82. I realized that was, there would actually be a number followed by 82. So that would be, it was like three and then some text and then 82. And I realized once it translated, it was like March of 82.
Right.
So the 3 was the month.
Got
number.
it.
So it made it really easy to track afterwards. Now we jump to the University of Maryland. You've got the colonel, I think it is. I can't remember his name. He's reading a newspaper in the limousine, and it's talking about a peace accord between the U.S. and the USSR. And he's angry by this because the dude does not like peace because he's a military man. Then we jump to April of 82, Kazakhstan, USSR. And this is where all those guys are on horseback.
Oh, yeah. At first I was like, man, what is this? Like Mongolia or something? It was a cool shot, actually.
Kazakhstan, you're not far off.
Yeah.
You know, this kid's upset and all these guys come running on horseback and we see all these sheep that are dead.
Right.
Then we jump to Milan, Italy. Now we have something called the Italian flu. And there's all these newspapers.
We're getting a really high quality, well shot visual tour of the world slowly crumbling, which was all entirely covered in a title card at Dead End Drive-In. You know?
Yeah.
This is
yeah, it is.
Yeah, because this is like 12, 15 minutes into the movie, and you know, we're just warming up. And it's like but it's all good looking stuff, and it works.
No, it is good, and they do some great world building. It's really cool. Like we're bouncing all over the place because after this we go down to Antarctica, and it's May of 82 now, and that's when we meet our Japanese scientist, and they have all sorts of conversations. I have no idea what they're talking about.
Me neither.
So we find it's the same Japanese scientist that was on the sub at the beginning of the movie, who was upset by Tokyo being destroyed because I guess his wife or girlfriend or whoever she is was there and is probably dead.
Yeah, this is our main guy, Yasuo.
Yeah, so anyway, he's there. He's part of this Japanese group in Antarctica. This is where I wrote saying would really love some subtitles.
Thanks to me.
Yeah, and then that's after this is where we jump to the Oval
Ah,
Office.
right. That's and I forgot about
and
that.
Then we've got Robert Vaughn as the senator.
Yeah,
We've got John Glenn as the president.
Senator Barkley, and Glenn Ford is President Richardson.
And this is where I noted, because I asked myself, why doesn't Robert Vaughn ask his alien friends for help?
Get the guy in calculating again.
Exactly. Let's just take it all the way back. They saved the world. Starship Invasion is what, 77? There you go. So yeah, he's known him for 3 years. Now he's worked his way up to senator. He should be able to call these guys and help out.
So
apparently the man from U.N.C.L.E. doesn't know what to do.
So this is funny because this was a good little key story component here. Is the Oval Office have a scientist, an expert, and he's in there and he's explaining the MM88 virus to them, and he's been doing some tests on it. I guess everybody has at this point because it's out and about and everybody can get a hold of it or something. And he seems to be sort of making this assumption or this theory. And he's saying, like, I did some tests, and the warmer the temperature, the quicker it spreads. And he says when it's, 5 degrees, the infection rate is like way up compared to when. And so it kind of foreshadows that this is why, these outposts and these research places are surviving because one, it can't get there, but if it did, it's not going to survive. It can't be airborne or something like that.
Yeah. It basically says it's dormant in cold temperatures. Yeah. And then the warmer it gets, the more active and how more quickly it multiplies itself.
This guy is all over it. And then in classic government body fashion, they're just like, no, we can't agree with this guy. And then they just lock him up in an asylum.
Yeah. So that's actually, we're getting a little bit. So he wasn't actually in the White House then. This is earlier on at the university. I kind of skipped that part. So totally. Yeah. So what happens is he explains it to the general because their sample is missing.
That's right.
And as we know, that sample is what got let loose. And this is actually before all this stuff breaks out. But yeah, this guy is like, hides this piece of paper when the colonel comes in, and the general finds this piece of paper, or the colonel finds this piece of paper when the guy leaves the room upset and discovers that he's like, oh no, he's figured it out. He knows what we're up to because they're trying to weaponize this thing. And that's when they have him committed.
Yes, that's it.
So yeah, they throw him in. Yeah. And Robert Vaughn later on busts him out.
Yeah. And there's just a lot of these escalation things where they're, like you said, it's like the cold turned into a flu, turned into pneumonia, like it just continues to grow. There's one
Well, the idea is if you catch any cold, it latches onto that, and so that's its in. If you have any other illness, it
gestates,
develops itself
right?
and gestates and kills you. Never mind the fact that in reality, a virus of this nature would have a short lifespan, because viruses that kill off their host don't last very long, because the whole point is to replicate themselves, and they can't keep killing the host.
Yeah, well, all you have to do is talk to Wilford Brimley at Outpost 37, and he'll tell you all about it. That's not a dog. It's imitation. So what ends up happening here, too, is there's a scene where there's a nurse in Japan, and she's sick, and she's crying, and she lights a candle, but it's all in Japanese, so I don't know what's going on.
There was a note here that it was July 82. Flashback over to Antarctica. They have no idea what's going on in the rest of the world because no one's answering them. This is where we get to, they're on the radio trying to find people. And this is where they managed to talk to Toby. They're on a radio call, and this kid named Toby calls in, who definitely sounds like an adult putting on a child's voice.
And this is the Antarctica base that hears.
Yeah,
Toby.
they're in Antarctica, and this is still August of 82. Okay. I've got notes. I've tracked the timeline, Sam.
I believe your translation.
You could not read this. I know what the dates are. Trust me on this. And my first note about this is, I hate Toby. He's a whiny bitch.
And he won't let go of the goddamn button.
Well, he won't let go of the button. So yeah, so Toby's just talking. He says, all going on about how his mom and dad I can't remember if he says they're dead or if they're asleep or something, and they won't get up. And he's scared, and he's alone. His dad wouldn't let him. Told him he wasn't allowed to use the radio until he was 10.
He's 5.
He's alone, so he's using it now, and he's 5 now. And so we realize from our Japanese hero that he is not letting go of the button, so he can't hear any response.
And Admiral Conway is listening to this the whole time. George Kennedy is listening to this too.
Yeah, so Toby continues to go on, and I think everybody else around him is dead. And then he says, I have my dad's gun. And he shoots himself. And I'm just like, wow, what 5-year-old thinks it's suicide?
Yeah.
Like that's a whole other level of messed up psychological issues that even in the apocalypse, I can't see a 5-year-old coming up with. This kid was 12 or 13, sure.
This movie's got some dark, gritty stuff. It's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's really done. The drama's there, and this is sort of one of those making a lot of tension out of nothing, because you're not cutting to Toby. We're just cutting around the room watching expression.
No, and it's a good thing we're not, because this would be some woman pretending to be a young boy reading these lines.
Yeah, the voice is pretty weird.
The voice drove me crazy. Anyway, and that takes us up now to September of 82. And in September of 82, we get a montage of dead cities. And so it starts off with New York and 7.4 million deaths, London 6.9 million deaths, Paris 2.3 million, Rome 2.9, Moscow 7.8, Tokyo 10 million. And so with Tokyo, I decided to look it up, and that was roughly the Metro Tokyo population. Man,
you did your trends.
Yeah, it was 8.3 in 1980. So they're basically telling you that everybody is dead.
Gone.
Yeah, it's not even like it's wiping out 98 or 99%.
It's
of the
over 100.
It's wiping out everybody.
You worked on this, man. I appreciate the translation effort. This is pretty cool.
It was driving me crazy. I had to figure this
out.
Well,
you knew I wasn't going to do it. So.
It wasn't that hard, because literally I would just take a picture with my phone and then dump it in Google Translate, and it would
Smart
pop up.
way to do it.
And then this is where we jump to the Oval Office, and it's a shambles now because they got papers, and I swear there's like takeout boxes.
Yeah, it's kind of just because the world's falling apart, and it's just there, and
exactly. This is where they realized that Antarctica would be okay, and this is when he wants to call Antarctica. It takes him months after knowing about the temperature thing to react to it.
Yeah, because they're not sick yet, right? This is just when they've decided to put in the call and find, or they.
Yeah. Now, but there was a scene earlier where his wife is sick, and that's when he's like, "Do whatever you need to do."
Oh, right.
Yeah, and so that scene earlier on is also where you find out that they were giving placebos, basically, because they're giving him a mixture of every vaccine known to man and just shooting everybody up with the hopes it might work.
Back at the Oval Office, it was also a secretary here, and she's played by Julie Connor, but I wanted to mention her because she was also Bridley in Videodrome, if that's any reference. Oh, this is it. So because we go back to the Oval Office, they're both sick, and Robert Vaughn dies.
Yes, and that's when the president gives a nice little speech about how you are my adversary, but you were never my enemy, or whatever, however he words it.
And he says, "This is the last sunset we'll ever see."
Yes.
Robert Vaughn just kicks the bucket.
And that's when the general comes in. And for whatever reason, the general's still healthy. And he demands that the president activate the ARS system, which they don't tell you what that is.
What it is, right?
But then the president's basically says, you're nuts. And then the president dies.
That's right. And then the general said, just in the interest of national security, we should turn it on.
Yes.
But you don't really, you still don't know what the ARS is
No,
at this point.
and that's when the general then goes downstairs and turns it on. You realize it's something to do with the nuclear response.
Yeah, he goes into this bunker through these security doors, and there's this big control panel, and he arms this thing, and it shows where all of the nuclear silos are on the U.S. and all of their plotted courses. Yeah. And it's like a mass launch weapon if they decide to.
It is the same thing that they have in Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's this automated computer response. The general, who we should say his name, it's Henry Silva, it was like in everything in the 70s.
Yeah, he's in Buck Rogers.
Yes, he was. I love Buck Rogers.
So during all this stuff, there's multiple subplots going on here. There's a love interest, and then there's also the guys at the Antarctica base trying to explore because they know there's other research, other nation research outposts in the area, right?
Yeah. So the general, launches this thing, and we forgot to say he then proceeds to sit in his chair and laugh like a maniac.
He does. Yeah. He's pretty happy about it.
And then that's the last time we see him, because the next time we see him,
he doesn't launch anything. He just arms
he just arms the system, laughs like a maniac, and apparently he dies right after because later on he's a skeleton in that chair.
He is One-Eyed Willie from Goonies, dust skeleton.
As is everybody at some point in this movie. And then we jump to November of 1982, and we've got our Japanese hero along with one of his buddies and some wonderful Japanese ADR, and they're checking out the Norwegian base. And
I thought this was cool, though.
Yeah, this was very cool.
They walk in there, and I just had a laugh about it because, here we are in this Arctic research base, and they go to a Norwegian base, and the classic part in the thing is when McCready and Doc go there.
Yep.
And McCready's just he's like, "Hey, Sweden," and Doc's like, "It's Nordic, Mac. It's Norwegian."
And we're
it's perfect.
2 years ahead of the thing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So they go to a Norwegian base, and everybody inside is dead. They look inside, and people have shot themselves and stuff. And
yeah, there's a guy dead on the foosball table.
Yes.
What a place to decide to lay down if you're gonna.
Well, I think they shot each other is what happened.
I was gonna say it looked more like a battle or
I think it was a little
there.
bit of each. I think they just decided they were going to take themselves out, and then we have Olivia Hussey hiding in a closet, essentially.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And the Japanese guys find her, and they bring her back. And then later on, we find out her husband went to kill her along with everybody else or something. She was the only one who survived the Norwegian base.
Yeah. And so when they return, this is a part where we probably have a good 15, 20 minutes now at the U.S. Antarctic base. And there's George Kennedy's on the radio, and he's saying that 800 survivors, and, they're trying to get a word out, and they're just constantly repeating a signal, just trying to see if there's anybody around. And that's when a Soviet sub picks up their transmission.
Well, the sub's in their waters at this point, right? So the sub is close. Talking to them, they realize that the guys on board the sub are sick.
The Soviets are.
The Soviets, yeah. So they can't let them land.
And then the Soviets it's actually pretty good acting. That's pretty brutal. They're you can tell they're really disheveled on the boat, and they want to get on land, and they're not doing too well.
Yeah.
And then George Kennedy makes the call. He's like, no, we can't risk it. We might be the last people left on Earth. But at the same time, the transmission is interrupted by the English sub.
Well, the English sub's listening in, basically, and it's there as well.
They ordered their sub to destroy the Soviet sub.
Yeah, yeah. So
and
the British sub destroys with American with their American Chuck Connors naval commander. They destroy the Russian sub,
and that creates the invitation where George Kennedy invites the sub, and he's like, "Is everybody safe on your submarine?" And they say yes.
Yeah.
And he says, "Hey, come aboard." come join our society.
Basically, their whole council agree right then and there to let them on, and of course it's fine.
Yeah, and then the Norwegian woman they found, she gives birth to a girl, and it's a big celebration because this is the first born child in what's left of humanity. But then it goes into this, like, it's a pretty long scene about how, and it's a big board of members, and they decide how they're going to figure out the breeding program for civilization.
Then we get a text on screen that says a year later. And that's where you're talking about. So they have their society, and there's a whole bunch of other women. They're all pregnant now. And basically, they just have a couple of lines talking about how social norms are getting thrown out the window. It's obvious that we can't have one woman and one man. It's going to have to be one woman and many men.
Right.
So that nobody knows who the father is of these children at this point because the women are just getting around.
It's a great scene, the way that they go about it diplomatically and discuss it. And they're just
the women aren't happy about it, but they accept it's a necessity.
Yeah, it's this, it's sort of this, I think one of the women on the panel.
And this is where they say, like, we have to figure something out. And it turns out it's like some kind of lottery system or something, basically. They're drawing names.
Yeah, you find that out because then there's a Christmas party.
Christmas party, yeah.
And there's like, everybody's like drawing numbers or names out of this pot or whatever. And I think.
And the Norwegian woman, who we should point out is Olivia Hussey, who was Juliet in the Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, there you go.
And she's
I didn't get that one.
She's also in Turkey Shoot, dude.
No.
Yes.
How did I miss that?
Yeah,
I'm embarrassed.
No.
That's great.
Well, Romeo and Juliet is a seminal movie for me because it was one that they showed in high school, and you see boobs. So that's why I know who she is.
Sure.
But yeah, it's great. If you're grade 9 studying like or grade 10, and we're like, oh, we saw boobs in school. So anyway, yeah. So
I could do that as well if I just wrote 8,085 and then turned my calculator upside down. I could see boobs as well.
Yes. So she's but she obviously is in love with her Japanese hero.
Yes.
And that's where I have the note. One woman wants Yoshizumi.
That's going to be the line for the
It will be it's going to be our subtitle.
So there's a sailor who wins the lottery with her. But what's interesting about this sequence is this is Christmas Eve party, and it's what's left of civilization. Mm-hmm. And they're for the most part happy, and everybody's like just cheering and having drinks and stuff and celebrating.
It's really melancholy though. It's actually well done. It's like everyone just is kind of going through the motions, and
random people are picking up the kids and holding them towards each other and saying, look, there's this excitement, like, hey, this is working. Like humanity's going to make it, it's not a creepy, it's not a weird thing. It's somehow they figure out how to make it come off as wholesome, even though it's kind of eerie.
Yeah.
It's well done.
They're making the best that they can with what they've got, and they accept their lot, and they're just trying to make do. So some people are semi-happy and others are still pretty melancholy, but they're making do.
As you said, like a lot of time has gone by, so this has taken a long time to establish and figure this out. Yeah.
Well, it's a year and a bit at this point. So we're up now to it'd be Christmas of '83. So now we've made it past the opening of the movie. In that cold open, we're past that now because that was, they said December '83. So now we're a few weeks after that.
Yeah. See, I never would have caught that.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm here for.
Okay. So this really brings us into the act breaks in this movie are quite strange. But this really brings us into the third act where this movie really heats up, and I was starting to get all in on this. This is a really cool turn. Like I said, this is a long movie, so we've skipped over a lot of stuff, a lot of the little subplots, a lot of the sequences that are entirely in Japanese that are, had no subtitles.
That we have no idea about.
I really didn't know where this movie was going. I was like, oh, they're just going to rebuild, and, that's kind of going to be the end of it, and things are going to be fine. Shuzo just comes out, and he just warns everybody that there's a huge earthquake coming. He does this presentation. It's not this quick.
Well, they find his work, right? And call him in.
Right.
And he's like, but I worked on this on my own time. And they kind of foreshadowed this because they make a comment about it in the opening of the movie, the cold open, where it's like, what is, where is he? And he's like, well, he's asleep. He was up late working on his this earthquake project.
Oh, I
And
missed
that's-
that.
yeah, and that's when
because I know when they woke him up, I missed that.
Yeah, and that's when the American guy says, like, it's a giant waste of time. Like, why is he worrying about that when we got this virus thing going on? So, but basically, he's figured out a way of predicting earthquakes with relative accuracy.
And it's the epicenter of this on his map that he's drawn out that he's showing is DC. And DC is where the ARS system is.
Yep.
And basically the general admits that, any earthquake or decent earthquake can trigger the ARS nukes. That this is when you start.
It would be a force equivalent to a nuclear strike.
Right. It would think a rocket has become inbound,
Yes.
and then therefore it would retaliate. And the American sub captain, he comes down and says that he saw the ARS get armed on his intel on the sub,
right?
But he has no idea anyone was even there to launch it. So he sort of admits, like, I was surprised it even turned on, which goes back to in the Oval Office when the president died, and now this guy, this maniac
crazy general decides he's turning it on.
Turning it on.
Yeah.
And then there's the Soviet sub captain, and he says, man, if that thing launches, our stuff is going to fire. Like, he sort of mentions. So everybody's all in saying, if an earthquake comes through DC where this ARS system is and it launches its rockets, everything else automated is going to go off. And there's nobody left to stop this stuff.
And now at the same time, they've got a Russian with them who knows that their version of this was turned on a year before.
Yes.
So if they detect an incoming American missile, they're going to retaliate. And one of the missiles was to this base.
Exactly. So that is the moment where the pressure's on, because you're like, well, at first I'm like, well, the world's done. Like, these guys are safe. And then they sort of say, yeah, well, how accurate is it? And then the Russian is just like,
basically it's the old world coming back to haunt them again.
Yeah. He's like, it's accurate. It's going to take us out. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So this is cool. There's a huge sense of threat now, and there's a ticking clock, and there's all this stuff coming. And
they figure they got about a month to get there and deal with it.
We're what, like an hour, 50 minutes into this movie? We still got 40 minutes to go.
Yeah. And this is honestly what I thought was going to be the end of the movie, and it turns out it's not.
No. And it's just good. I just really, for the pacing of the other two acts and a very long second act, this really brought some heat to the movie. And I was like, this is cool. And
that's where pretty much the perfect time.
Yeah, because you're like, okay, where's it going to go? You're sort of fizzing out, and then this happens. So I think they discussed that, it's a 10-day trip in the sub, and they can get them to DC, and, they've got to prepare and everything else. But, it's always like, okay, who's going to go? What's going to happen?
Who's going to go? Because the second they step out of that sub, they're going to get the virus, and they've got days to live.
Right. And
I think it's supposed to be 3 days. Within 3 days, you're dead.
Yeah, I think it's really short. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Major Carter, Bo Svensson, he wants to go, but there's not really this sort of there's a little bit of tension there, but they still end up doing this like drawing cards thing.
Yes.
And it's a pretty sad moment because they're all in this outpost and it's quiet and they're, it's dramatic,
Yep.
And Carter just kind of gets fed up with it, and he like slaps the hat on the floor because he's looking at all these guys and these feeble people, and he's like, just send me, I'll go.
Well, he says it has to be him. And in honesty, he's the only one who makes sense. Because
he knows where it is. He knows what's going on.
He knows how to turn it off. He knows the system because he was a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which is why I was trying to figure out, like, when my notice is like, how can anyone just turn this off? Like, they can't.
No.
So he knows it's him, and then that's where he gets into a fight with our Japanese guy.
Well, because Shuzo says he wants to go as well.
Yeah. And he says you can't do this by yourself.
And Carter just doesn't want to have a bar because they had some beef at the beginning or earlier and so there's some back and forth there. And you got to remember, this is 1980, so this is 40 years, 35 years after Nagasaki, and so
it's a little too soon.
Yeah, so there's still some tension there on both sides, They walk outside, and it's this most beautiful shot.
It's stunning. This is where I looked it up and like, where are they? And it was like, holy crap, they went to Antarctica.
Yeah,
They did go to Antarctica.
and they have this fist fight out on the coastline in the most beautiful, and God, it's just gorgeous. But
it's stunning. It is just
movie is
absolutely
so
stunning.
good looking. Shuzo gets his lunch made, but he is laying there in the snow, and
Well, he bites him at one point in the fight too, which I thought was hilarious.
He's just feeble and just doing anything else, and Carter's like, "You're biting me now," and he just like wails on him. Somehow, after all that, I think Shuzo keeps coming back, and Carter sees some fight in him, and
he accepts it.
Yeah, even though he's KO'd now, Carter just picks him up on his shoulder because Carter's huge.
But he's a military guy, and our hero is just Japanese scientist.
So Carter does feel sorry for him and drags him in, and then you realize, okay, they're both going to go together. And then it's established that it's a 10-day trip in the submarine. They board the sub, and again, some incredible footage just out with this submarine. Like, they really use the submarine, and they dive it and stuff. It's so cool.
Yeah, but before they get in the submarine, our French scientist comes up and informs them that he thinks he has a cure. But he has no human test subjects, but given the situation, these guys, are going to die otherwise. They might as well take it.
It's his latest concoction where he's like, I haven't had anybody to test it on, but
he thinks he's got it. He thinks he's figured it out. And he points out and he says it's by a massive dose of radiation is what fixes it. And I was just like, that's a weird thing. But it turns out that I think that comes into play later without them really explaining it. And
because, the way I read that with the radiation was that he was sort of saying, well, you're going to be dead either way, but this might give you a longer fighting chance before it fights it off. I wasn't sure if he was saying it was a complete cure.
Yeah, I thought that too. But then I realized I think he meant something else. So I think he was alluding that the radiation would kill the virus as well. Okay. So that's like a positive spin on the potential nuclear war as well, which I think is what because that plays in later as well. And they also announced that they're going to put everybody else they can or under the American destroyer. Yes. All the women, all the kids, and then a handful, I guess, of the other men.
What's left of society, because in case the Russian retaliation rockets fire, they want to get them away from this place.
Exactly, but a bunch of them are going to have to stay back at that base. So they're leaving as well, and they're getting far enough away that if something does happen, then they can survive.
Yeah, 10 days go by on the sub, and there's some small talk.
That's when we get our next text, Potomac River, USA. So they've taken it up the Potomac to get them as close as they can to the White House.
And there's a great shot here because they get out of the submarine and they're in a Zodiac and they're ripping away from the submarine. And the first thing I thought of was like, man, this just looks like Rod and Steve leaving on Death Cheaters out of the sub.
I got to admit, when they get to land, they've set dressed this beautifully. Like, this looks like post-apocalyptic Washington, D.C.
It looks great. And there's an awesome map painting of the White House here.
Yes.
They walk between two trees, and it's a really, really good map painting. I was like, damn.
To the point where I thought they just dressed some location, and it would make no sense that they'd be able to do that, but it looks great. I totally bought it.
So when they actually approach the White House, when they get there, and it's the close-ups, and it's not a set, it's actually a constructed thing they did on CineSpace Film Studios in Ontario.
Oh, really?
That's where they shot all that. Yeah. So it is actually specifically credited White House exterior at CineSpace Studios in Ontario.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well done. This movie is made well.
Mm-hmm. They go in the White House. Everyone's dead. They're all skeletons. They work their way and down towards the bunker, and that's when the earthquakes start. This is one of two parts that I had a bit of a problem with. The timing is just too Hollywood. Yeah. Too convenient. But fine. I get it. They're going to ramp up the action.
And they're trying to navigate through the basement of the White House, which is clearly highly secure. Yeah. And so Carter has a bunch of plastic explosive. And so he's setting up this plastic explosive, and Shuzu's sort of hiding while Carter does his thing, and he blows the door, and then they move through. And then they find another one, they blow the door, and they move through.
And then they go down an elevator shaft.
This probably is, dude, there's a great shot when the two of them look out the elevator shaft looking down. It's really cool. It's a
great shot. It sounds terrible. It's bad ADR. They're talking without their lips moving.
I didn't notice that.
Oh, I did. Trust me.
Of course you did.
That might be part of my job. But they were talking and they're not really moving their lips. It's obvious stuff they added afterwards. So they're looking down and they decided they need some dialogue there.
Yeah, this is just a great sequence. And it feels good. They rappel down the elevator shaft. There's another locked door. They go through the same motions where he puts plastic explosive on the latch. He crawls around the door. This is a little too Hollywood. The timing is just,
too convenient for the story. But whatever. Earthquake strikes.
So the earthquake happens. Some rubble falls down and it pins Carter and he can't run away from the charge he's put on the door, and now he just dies from the explosion. So this leaves Shuzu, who's never seen any of this shit in his life, to figure out what's going on. But luckily Carter blew open the last door, and the ARS system is now there, visible.
But as he gets into the room,
it starts to crumble.
Everything's launched, and it's all for nothing.
I was very surprised that this happened. Like,
so was I.
He scrambles to the console, the ticking clock is on, and as he reaches for the console, the whole board lights up and the rockets fly off.
And we're intercut with he's seeing video footage of rockets flying, and I was like, I did not see that coming. I did not think they would actually go through with that.
It's very dramatic, but I was very surprised that they decided to, even 8 years before it was released, use the footage from Sons of Steel of the nukes going off.
And the day after, 6 years before that came out, and everything else. No, but I mean, this is one of the few times where they've used some stock nuclear footage to good extent.
Yeah.
It works well. They showed different places blowing up. They would intercut with scenes of the cities and that we saw earlier, and then a nuclear explosion taken from different angles. There's some top-down stuff that worked well. I liked it when they got to the Antarctic base, because they show an explosion there. It's very obviously a model that's going, and then they cut to a wide shot of one of the Pacific bombings. So you just see the ocean and stuff like it was like, oh, it was actually quite well done. Yeah, it worked. It was cool.
This is a tragic moment. Like, I'm like, 2 hours, 20 minutes into this movie, and it's all over. Like,
I'm thinking
they haven't won, they haven't succeeded. Everybody's going to die.
Exactly. And I thought, wow, this movie ends on a downer, impressive. And then I realized, oh, we've got half an hour left.
Yeah. I didn't know what was going to happen or where it was going to go. But
exactly. I had no idea where this was going next. It was shocking.
So it hooked me. So it hooked me again.
Yeah,
it was just like, oh, wow. You know, as much as there were some typical tropes in there, then it just spun me around again.
Exactly.
It's a good movie.
Well done. It is. I again, like I said, I ordered the DVD because I need to watch this properly.
You'll probably be able to tell me because I'm sure there's a title card here, but
there is.
Clearly some time passes. So inform me.
The title card is The World Died Twice and Several Years Passed.
And then we see Shuzo walking through like a salt flat.
Yes, and I'm like, how the hell is he still alive?
He is like covered in like threads of old clothes, and he's got this long... He looks like he's straight out of Burning Man at this point.
Yeah, so we find out through some exposition a little bit later. It's been at least 4 years. So my guess is for him at this point, it's been maybe 1 or 2. So this is where I have the note, like, how is he still alive? And then I remembered the stuff about exposing the vaccine to radiation. And I thought maybe this, they don't say it otherwise, but maybe this is what keeps him from radiation poisoning. He's been vaccinated against radiation poisoning as well, because I could believe that he's in a bunker that could survive the blast.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the ARS system where he is when it goes off.
Exactly. So he's able to get himself out somehow, and then basically he just starts walking.
Dude, that's really clever. This movie, I didn't pick that up, but I would give this movie that credit because it really is clever and well made.
Yeah, and it's the only thing I can think of, because it's not blatant, but I remembered that one line about him saying he basically a high dose of radiation into the virus is what made it work for the antivirus.
And man, like, I don't know if they had like extra money in their pocket by this time in the movie, but then they just go all out on the spectacle.
So he walks, I have to assume he walks from Washington, D.C. to the southern tip of Argentina.
Yes.
Is what I'm thinking.
He catches a fish on the way though.
Yes, he does. Well, and he goes through Machu Picchu as well.
But that's what I mean. Like, walks from DC to Machu Picchu, catches a fish on the way, and you're like, damn, this guy's a beast. Yeah. But it goes back about the whole thing with the virus only affecting, land animals. So he's able to catch this fish. It's probably an unnecessarily long sequence, but it gives you an idea that this is how he's surviving.
Yeah, so there's that scene where he walks into a church at a certain point, and he walks up, and there's like Jesus on the crucifix lying on the ground, and there's a bunch of skeletons, and he's looking at them, and there's all this text on the screen. I will tell you what all the text on the screen says.
Have a whole seat. Only going to need the edge of it.
Yeah, so I wrote it. It filled up an entire page in my notebook. So the first one's like, "What are you doing, alone in a place like this? You won't answer. Well then, lie here forever. Where are you going? I'm in the South. I have friends in the South and children. Children, is it yours? No, but she's very cute. It is useless. There is no one left, but I'm going south. And
Wow.
then that's where, then we cut to him catching a very large fish in very shallow water along the ocean that he then
He
proceeds
clubs
to
it.
beat the shit out of it, slapping it against the sand. And he continues walking south, and suddenly he's in Manu Picchu. So, he's going right down.
And the shots aren't just these static things. These are these big, wide helicopter shots. Shots.
That,
it's like
Machu
gorgeous.
Picchu thing's amazing. And
Oh,
I'm
it's
just like,
beautiful.
wow.
Yeah.
There's one part where he's walking along what looks like a crater.
Yeah,
edge,
I
and
actually
it's
thought
just-
that was Yuba Hibi Crater in Death Valley. It was so extremely could have been somewhere else with the money that this place had. Like, I'm sure they shot it somewhere else, but incredible. Yeah, so he covers all these different terrains to give you this real big sense of traverse.
And then we jump to our survivors who left on the ship, and they have like a little encampment, and there's really only 15 of them. With there's like 12 adults and a handful of kids, and things are very bleak.
It's essentially what's left of the people who took the destroyer.
This is all that's left of humanity.
And they've been dying off for 4 or 5 years since the nukes launched.
And then the scientist makes a point, like one of the women says, why bother? Like, and she's obviously upset because she's lost her child. Her child passed away.
Which is another child that she's had or something at this point, you assume,
that has died. She's like, why should we bother? And he said, well, we should get going soon. We need to leave, go somewhere else. We're running out of food.
It's pretty drab.
And she said, why bother? Yeah, she said, why bother? It's going to get us. And he's like, no. And he makes a point that the virus has probably died out. If not, and if it hasn't, the radiation has probably taken care of it. And they would probably, be fine if they just go elsewhere. They're running out of food where they are. So, but we know they catch fish because we know the ocean's still full of fish. But anyway, cut then to our hero walking along the beach. His love from, years before is outside, sees him and runs towards him. And
he is like almost a cripple at this point, and he's off in the distance,
stumbling.
And he's so gnarly looking, and he's got this voice. It's awesome. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And he is way off, and it's actually kind of a nice shot. It's really wide, and then she sort of squints and sees, and then there's a reflection in his necklace that like blooms, and it catches her attention, and then from that distance she realizes it's him.
So she runs towards him, and she's yelling his name, and all the rest come out. And they all come running towards him. Suddenly, everyone's happy because this guy came back.
And he can fish.
And he knows how to fish.
Oh,
He can catch it. He can catch it with his hands.
Yeah.
And he basically mutters, "Life is wonderful," which is what his buddy had said just before he died.
Oh, that's right.
And then credits roll, and we get our title song again.
Pretty good movie, dude.
Yeah. Again, I don't know how it is. I'd never heard this before.
I completely consider
really
this a sleeper for the cost that's in it,
Yep.
the production value, and the subject matter. There's a really great movie in here.
Yeah, I had read somewhere that this flopped, which is probably why no one put a lot of effort into, putting it on VHS and then DVD and then Blu-ray. Because as far as I can tell, it made it to DVD and that was it.
Well, if it went into public domain on VHS, as I mentioned, maybe they didn't bother because it's not worth the money because of all the bootlegs. But in this day and age, it still would obviously worth owning a nice hard copy of it.
Yeah. So what I've managed to read is supposedly the DVD from 2006, which is what I've ordered, is the full movie, which is what we watched. So if I do watch it again, I'll finally get, in theory, subtitles. Dear God, if it doesn't have subtitles, I'll be pissed.
Yeah.
That's $7 wasted, Sam.
No Blu-ray though. This movie deserves a Blu. This is truly what we would consider an outer reel. Like, this is a lost movie for how good it is. This should exist.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this once I sat down and started watching it proper.
Yeah, and so again, at 156-minute TRT, I think if you dropped the love subplot and got rid of some of those backstory things, I think with the whole threat of the nuclear thing and to human civilization and the submarine stuff, I think you could do this movie in like 100 minutes and it would be really nice.
Maybe, or maybe 105 to 120, somewhere in there, even if it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
But I mean, this could definitely be, I mean, this your standard question is, would you remake this? And I'm like, If we hadn't just had COVID, it would be an emphatic yes.
Yeah.
It would almost feel derivative to do it now because of COVID.
Right.
But yeah, you could, and you could do this. You could do the story more efficiently.
I think you could, but also I would have a really hard time if I were to remake this, making it any better as far as how good it looks and the awesome cast and the people. Like, again, I talk about it a lot, but actors and stuff just looked like real people back then. And there's this grit to it that we would never get anymore, you know?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, it's a really good little movie. I, again, surprised that it's just not hasn't got releases or anything, because it deserves to be seen, because it's
Completely agree.
alternate release titles, since we talked about it. It was virus in just about most places. In West Germany, it was called Overkill, but it was also in the other parts of Germany, it was called Apocalypse. And Argentina, it was released as The End. But please don't confuse this with the flawless Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise comedy from 1978, The End, because that is also a great movie. Yeah, it was shot everywhere. L.A., B.C., Chile, Alaska, Antarctica, Nova Scotia, Ottawa, Tokyo. Again, reflective of this, why it looks so good and it's so big. There's a production unit that was on a Swedish ship called the Lindblad Explorer, and they were headed to Antarctica to pick up some B-roll, and they struck a reef, almost sank, and had to be rescued by the Chilean Navy.
Wow.
And the Chilean Navy were like all about this movie for some reason, and they ended up actually donating some of the exterior shots of the submarines were the Chilean subs.
Oh, interesting. It was certainly shot like this is going to be a massive blockbuster.
The interior shots of the submarine were all for both subs, both the Soviet and the British sub, were filmed aboard the HMCS Okanagan.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I think this is where the Canadian connection, like with BC, Robert Vaughn, because he did all those early Canadian movies, and then the Okanagan stuff, this Okanagan submarine.
Yeah, which meant it was probably out of Victoria.
Yeah. IMDb score is 6.2.
Yeah, I mean, it probably deserves higher.
If it was shorter, I think it should be like a 7, because I just enjoyed it. And again, the third act really got me all pumped about it. It was, I didn't know where it was going to go. It has a really long second act that has you questioning, you know, what is the point of this movie? Yeah. And it really turns it up.
Yeah, no, I don't know how many times I can say it. I was shocked how much I enjoyed this.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty good start into Japanese not forgotten movies. Well, dude, like, thank you for putting in the extra effort on translating those notes and those title cards, because, again, I wouldn't have done that.
I didn't do it for you, dude.
That's what I like to hear. Well,
I needed it.
Let me tell you that I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. But I never would have gotten through this if I hadn't done that.
Yeah, I did, but definitely.
Fuck you, Tubi. Fuck you. Give me some goddamn subtitles.
Don't you dare say anything bad about Tubi.
I had to endure so many commercials for that garbage.
Tubi is everything.
Tubi's fine. They've got some great obscure stuff on there, but goddamn it, give me subtitles. If you're not going to dub it, give me subtitles.
We should mention that when I was trying to come up for a name for this podcast, that I did come up with To Be or Not To Be, and we would only watch movies on Tubi. And then we found out some clown shoe
someone's already doing it.
He has a Twitter account or something like that. So good for him, because he got there first. Look, man, this was fun. It was a great little discovery. Super glad I've seen it. Definitely going to get myself a hard copy for the collection, because it's just one of those movies that's worthy of owning.
Well, you can't get the one I found on eBay because I already got it. But all right, man. But as usual, anything but casino.
I appreciated it. I appreciate you. And I look forward to your pick coming up soon.
Well, in a week.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, buddy.
We'll see you.
Therefore, whatever appears on the television screen emerges as raw experience for those who watch it. Therefore, television is reality, and reality is less than television.